Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over potential Winter Storm Billy if this were to be named. We're going to be going over some areas which could be seeing over a foot of snowfall in early October. This will definitely overcome some of the October total snowfalls for the month of October in parts of the Midwest and Northern Rockies. Minneapolis is just zero point 0.1 inches away from that. Areas in South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana are all close to breaking those records, so we have a lot of areas that maybe with another inch or two of snowfall could break the all-time October snowfall records in their area, and we are looking at another system which could bring maybe some areas up to a foot of snowfall in parts of South Dakota, North Dakota, and western Minnesota. So let's get right into it here, and let's start off with your current National Weather Service page. And also I'll add that I will be showing you guys my personal forecast for this storm at the end of the video, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end. Winter storm watches are up for parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota, and parts of northwesternmost Wisconsin. Winter weather advisories cover much of Montana, northern Idaho, and then as well northern parts of Wyoming. We see winter storm warnings scattered through Montana and northern Wyoming, as well as some freeze warnings in that dark blue for portions of Oregon, California, Idaho, and Washington. We also see some wind advisories in effect for parts of Idaho, high wind warnings for parts of Wyoming, red flag warnings in effect for parts of Colorado, Utah, and northern California. We also see some frost advisories in effect for portions of Oregon, as well as some freeze watches in effect for parts of Nevada and California, as well as parts of Kansas and Nebraska there. And then we also see some air quality alerts in effect for parts of Colorado and Central California. So let's start off with your current European model guidance, and we're going to go through 3-hour increments and see what the European model is showing. Now, this would be I'm going to use Central Time for today's video because, of course, that's the area that will be impacted by this storm. So this would be right around 7 p.m. tonight, Central Time, and we're looking at some scattered snow flurries through parts of Minnesota and South Dakota, but your main storm is out here in Montana and Wyoming. So portions of eastern Montana, northern Wyoming, by this point, are getting into some of the snowfall. All of these areas in the blue, or kind of separated by this blue line, indicate that you're below 32 degrees. So to the north of here, you're below 32 degrees. So you're definitely able to see some snowfall, and even some of the areas that are outside of that 32 degree area are still seeing some snowfall, or at least some mixing precipitation. To the south of this storm, you'll actually see some convective activity, so potentially some thunderstorm activity. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. I'm not going to cover that in today's video, but check the Storm Prediction Center page to see if they did actually post anything. Now, here would be I would say this would be right around 10 p.m. Central Time, and we're looking at some mixing going on for portions of South Dakota, as well as some icy activity for those areas. We're going to be looking at these ice totals as well, and that could amount to maybe as much as half an inch in some areas. We have a lot of scattered snowfall over the Dakotas, Montana, and Wyoming, and we're even seeing some heavy pockets and a lot of mixing as well, as you're going from a high elevation area to a lower elevation area, especially in parts of Montana and Wyoming. Now, it would be it would be today right around, I would say, this would actually be tomorrow right around 1 a.m. and we're looking at the heaviest snowfall now moving into portions of South Dakota. We're starting to see the warm sector of the storm set up, where you're actually seeing some bands of fairly heavy rainfall show up on this model. That would indicate some thunderstorms popping up through there, so potentially some thunder or lightning, and then just a couple hours further to the north, you're dealing with some snowfall. So definitely something very interesting, and ahead of this storm, you'll be in the 70s, maybe even some 80s further to the south. So it'll be some fairly pleasant weather just a little bit further to the east and to the south of the storm. Here would be by tomorrow, as we get to right around 4 in the morning, heavy snowfall now moving into the Dakotas. And as we move this forward, here would be by 7 a.m. and here would be by 10 a.m., 1 p.m. And it's really starting to move through parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And you're seeing that rain-snow line start to set up. Here to be by this would be right around 4 p.m. Central Time, and we're looking at that snowfall still for the eastern Dakotas, northern Minnesota. Some lingering showers behind this front as you get back into the western Dakotas and into parts of Montana and Nebraska. And then we're seeing actually some mixing and even some lake effect enhanced snowfall over portions of the Great Lakes, especially over the UP of Michigan, where you're actually getting these winds to go over the Great Lakes, move on to Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan, and that actually is enhancing the snowfall, which would already be there because of the storm. It's not purely lake effect, but it's a lake effect enhanced snowfall that's helping produce even more snowfall than what you would typically see with just this type of system. Here would be by right around I would say 7 p.m. Central Time, and we're looking at that band of snowfall, moderate to light snowfall over portions of northern Minnesota. That line of convective activity still there for portions in Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri, and Kansas, and then again those scattered snow showers behind the front in that dark gray and into the lighter blues. That's where you're looking at some lighter snowfall. Now here would be by this would still be by tomorrow right around 10 p.m. And then this is as you're getting to 1 a.m. on Friday, the 23rd of October, and it's really wrapping up. So here's your ice totals from this, your freezing rain accumulation, and we're looking at in this shade of pink, that's actually some areas picking up maybe half an inch of ice, and you're seeing that scattered throughout portions of Montana, Wyoming, through the central part of South Dakota, and then into southwestern Minnesota. Here would be some of your visibilities, and I just picked a random time in the middle of the storm. This would be Thursday, 4 in the morning, so already it's dark by this point, but you're looking at these visibilities as you get into the browns. That's where you're getting reduced visibilities, and the whites and the lighter grays. That's where you have fairly good visibility, near 10 to 30 to 10 to 20 miles or so visibility. But as you get into this thin band where you're dealing with snowfall over portions of South Dakota, and then you're seeing some rainfall over portions further to the south, you're dealing with some areas that are maybe at half a mile visibility, maybe even a little bit lower in some patchy areas because of this wind-driven snow. Some of that snow that was already on the ground is being blown around, as well as the snow that's falling at that same time. So we could have some reduced visibility. I just wanted to point that out. Now, here would be your total snowfall from this storm, and then we'll look at the GFS model, and then my personal forecast in just a little bit. You have that in the blues, you have 2 to 6 inches. In the purples, you have 6 to 10, 10 plus inches in the pinks, and as you start getting into the lighter pinks, that's where you're getting near 20 inches. And we're looking at in the blues again, that's your 2 to 6 inch area, and you see that covering a wide swath of the northern plains. But then that thin area, which is I would say probably about 100, 200 miles wide, where you have 6 plus inches, and even some areas near parts of the Great Lakes in Minnesota, as well as parts of the Dakotas, where we're looking at maybe a foot or more of snowfall in those pinks. So that's where you could get some really heavy accumulation, and the GFS model is fairly similar to this. We'll look at that right now. So here's what the GFS model is showing. This would be right around 7 p.m. tonight. Here would be as we're getting to about 1 a.m. tomorrow, and we're looking at some of that snowfall setting up for portions of the Dakotas and back through Minnesota, or actually Montana, and we're seeing some areas of heavier snowfall bands move through parts of South Dakota. Then as we get to Thursday, right around 5 in the morning, or actually this would be around 7 in the morning, excuse me there. So we're looking at some snowfall setting up for portions of the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan. And this is a little bit of a colder model run than what the European model was showing, where you have that rain snow line a little bit further to the south than what the European model was showing. And that ice is setting up because the model's a little bit colder. That ice is setting up also a little bit further to the south. Notice the isobars, they're kind of packed closer together than what most models are also showing. So if this were to be true, we could see maybe some gusts to 30 miles per hour or so. So that could definitely reduce visibility at times. Here would be by tomorrow, as we're and tomorrow this would be right around this would probably be right around 1 p.m. or so, and we're looking at quite a bit of snowfall, especially that lake effect enhanced snowfall over the UP of Michigan and Wisconsin, and then we're just seeing some general moderate to even heavy snowfall at times in portions of South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And even though on these models they look like they're just really that they're solid areas of fairly similar amounts of snowfall rates, they're not going to be that way in the actual actual storms. In the actual storms, you get a couple bands where you could put out an inch or two per hour, and then maybe a few miles to the north or to the south or to the east or to the west, you're looking at maybe half an inch per hour snowfall amount. So it's not going to be evenly spread out like these models show, and that's just something that you have to look at the radar for, and that's something that you can't really forecast a couple days out. So here to be by tomorrow around 7 p.m. and that heavy snowfall over the Great Lakes, and some of that even seeping onto parts of Michigan and Wisconsin. And then as we get to Friday 1 a.m. or so, we're looking at that snowfall really starting to wrap up, and then you just see some lake effect behind the system. Here's the total snowfall from that from the Gfs model, and we're looking at some pockets and parts of the Great Lakes, looking at maybe over a foot, as well as that same area for portions of South Dakota and western Minnesota, where some areas could pick up a foot, maybe even a foot and a half of snowfall. And that rain snow line was pushed a little bit further to the south than what the European model showed. And notice as well, northern North Dakota, northern Minnesota barely getting anything out of this. So you have to be within this thin area from northern Minnesota to, I would say, probably South Dakota or so, where you'll actually see maybe 6 to 10 inches, maybe even a little bit more of snowfall. So let's get into my forecast going from today all the way until the 23rd, which would be Friday, I believe. And we're looking at mountain snow for portions of western Montana, northern and eastern Idaho, western Wyoming, and parts of the mountainous regions in Utah, where you could be seeing maybe a trace or so further to the south. As you get into the northern Rockies, maybe you could get closer to a foot or two of snowfall. Here's the coating area, or maybe even under an inch, whatever you want to call it, and we're looking at that in the light blue, and that covers much of the northern plains, where this is just the area where I think you might see a quick change over to snowfall. Doesn't mean that you're really going to get too much accumulation. 1 to 3 inches here is this is the bulk area where I think you'll get a decent accumulation for portions of the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, much of Minnesota, much of the Dakotas, eastern or actually most of Montana as well, and then northern Wyoming. That's where you're looking at 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. 3 to 6 inches of snowfall for portions of Wyoming, Montana, the central Dakota, so from southern North Dakota to northern South Dakota, and then for the northern half of Minnesota, that's where you're looking at that 3 to 6 inch area, 6 to 12 inches, and again that thin narrow band from Wyoming to northern Minnesota, where you could be looking at maybe a 6 or more inch amount of snowfall. And then those two pockets of 12 to 18 inches, I think you'll have one that sets up just west of the Great Lakes in northern Minnesota, and then I think you'll see another band for northern and northeastern, especially northeastern South Dakota, and maybe even clipping a little bit of southern North Dakota there, where this is where I think you'll probably be between 12 and about 13 and 14 or 13 or 14 inches. That's where I think your range is, probably 12 to 14 inches, maybe a maximum closer to 16 or 17 inches when we finally look back at the snowfall reports from the storm. So if you did enjoy this video, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.